Everyone, how's it going? Welcome to, let's check, welcome to part 2 of this Trails collab. I don't know, I still don't know anything about it, but terrible start. Anyways, today's part 2 looks quite interesting, I'll be honest. We're going to be doing very similar to what we did in part 1 stream. All that fun stuff, covering the unit and the arc is going to be the main focus of the stream. And I'll cover part 1 again since it's been about a week or it's been a week since part 1's been released. I still don't have the unit yet, but I haven't heard too much about people using that unit, honestly. But the main focus of today is definitely going to be part 2, and I do want to have a quick look at the news as well, just to see if there's any new updates and stuff that's going on today. I don't think there's going to be too much going on today. I think it's probably going to be a similar stream to the last one, and it's not going to be super long, but we'll have to see how it goes. The event is still currently going on, and there's a temple ticket that I currently don't have yet, because you need to wait for that until we get that stage completed first to 100%, which kind of sucks. But let's go have a look at the news first of all. Just because I want to have a look at everything that they've added in this update today. I don't think there is too much, but let's have a look. I know there's a raid, and obviously Collab Part 2 is the main focus of today, and I don't think there's too much else, so let's have a look. But yeah, I think this unit's going to be quite interesting, honestly. I wasn't sure what to expect, but we'll go over that in a moment. So obviously we got Part 2 has been added to this collab, so that's nice. And then the world raid is going to start later today, so that's nice. More raid boss is always going to be fun, so do like seeing that. And Tower Trials is back, so that's great. Chronicles have been updated. A new banner for Ultra Descent of Heroes festivals. I don't care too much about this one just because I have most of the things in there, but I'll have a look at it a bit later on. But the good thing about it is the probability is an increase compared to a normal banner, so they are sometimes useful. And then some shop updates and fixes. So yeah, there's not too much that they've added today. I think there was a bit more last week, which is pretty much expected, because usually the first week, or at least the first update, part 1 of a collab, usually a bit bigger than part 2. Part 2 usually just has the part 2 banners and just a couple of events added onto it. So we do get the repost share promo rewards in our present box, so make sure to redeem those. You just need to go in your present box and get those, so you can get some tickets from that. Let's just have a quick look. Current banners and stuff. Yeah, there isn't really too much in the news, so I don't need to go over this that long, because there isn't really anything else I need to mention here in regards to the news. But let me just have a quick look over in this section just to double check. But yeah, we've got Joshua, which I'll have a look at in a moment, as well as the Ark. Looks pretty interesting, honestly. I think this unit could be quite strong. Based on his kit, he does have some potential to be quite a strong unit, so I'm quite interested to see his performance. And he does have the Fatal Strike skill, so I think it could be pretty fun of a unit, but we'll have a look at that in a moment. And I don't think there's really too much else that I need to mention in regards to this update today. 5th of September is going to be the unit damage ranking, so make sure you're aware of that. And I don't think there's too much else. Part 2 login, and yeah, so yeah, there isn't that much in the news or in this update today, so let's move on to the main focus of the stream, which is going to be having a look at the banners in the Part 2 unit and arc, because I think this could be pretty interesting. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect. I kind of had low expectations for this unit, because I thought it was just going to be a damage dealer, and he is just a damage dealer, but we'll go in depth into that in a moment. But he does look quite interesting. It reminds me a lot of King Bradley and Diablo, those types of collab units that we've had in the past, pretty similar. And part 1 and part 2 currently have 2 weeks left, so I do want to, towards the end and the conclusion probably, I do want to recommend like which banners are the best one, but I do want to have a look at the units and stuff first before we do all that. And the summer events banners still have a week left, by the way, and this is the new Descent of Heroes Ultra banner. I'm just going to have a quick look at this. Don't know why they're not showing up, but Leonardo is pretty damn useful unit, I'll be honest. So I would probably select Leonardo if you were to pull on this banner, but honestly, these UR Arks, I mean, these two are pretty good. Garland, they're all useful, honestly, but you don't really need to pull for these, so I wouldn't worry about this banner too much, because it's best to focus on the more limited banners, especially since there's a collab going on right now, so I wouldn't really worry about that banner too much. If there were, like, more useful Descent of Heroes units in there, like Spirit Maiden Sarah and Linus and stuff like that, then it would have been a very nice banner. Also, they have extended this banner because there was an issue with it, so this has another week. So if you were considering on pulling for Balzar, you do have another week available for that banner, so that's nice. Now let's have a look at everything that's in part 2. So we got Joshua and the new LR Arc. I think the units in part 2 is what I'm most interested in this update, because we'll have a look at his kit. He seems like a pretty strong damage dealer, mostly for PvP, but I think PvE potential could be pretty strong as well. So let's get right into it. So there we go. Joshua Bright. He is a soldier type dark unit. That was expected based on what we've been seeing, based on his artwork and everything, and the souls. It was expected that he was going to be a dual wield dark damage dealer. That's basically what I was expecting from before, but stats looking pretty good. HP, strength. I think that his strength is going to be quite high, if I'm honest, because he has a lot of strength increases in his kit, and the fact that he already has 2,400 strength right here does make me think that his strength is going to be quite high. I don't know if it's going to be similar to Diar's strength, because he's got like the highest strength in the game, or one of the highest strengths, so that's crazy, but no idea. You have to wait and see on what he's like in battle. I haven't looked at his actual strength stats and everything yet. Attribute resistance is plus 40 to dark, kind of interesting. Minus 20 to light, you know, it's not bad. Element resistance is actually pretty good because he's got nil to curse and stun, so that's very nice to see on a physical damage dealer. Is it good to aim for a new player? Well, I'm going to say I haven't gone through all of his kit yet, but I can say that if you're just starting, then getting this unit is going to be quite useful. Either the part 1 or part 2 unit is going to be useful for your account, of course, but which one is going to be more useful is kind of difficult to tell at this point. I feel like the part 1 units has more long-term usability or viability, because she is more of a support unit. But I haven't heard that many people using her, honestly, and she isn't that game-breaking, or she's just kind of mid all around. I mean, she's still a very good support unit, but she isn't anything crazy. But Joshua is definitely going to be a hell of a lot of a better physical damage dealer. Will you be able to clear all PvE content? Well, no, because specific content requires specific teams sometimes, and some content requires more than one team. But the story alone, he should definitely carry you for sure. But obviously, he only just came out, so we need more testing with this unit to really understand how good he is, right? So I do highly recommend at least wait at least a couple days or something for some other people to test him out, and also when I start showcasing him as well, so then we get a better idea of his performance. But I think there's some potential so far, but I'm saying that we haven't even gone through his abilities or anything yet, so we need to do that. Skill 1 is a medium area dark combo attack. Honestly, all of his skills look pretty fast, and I do like them. The hit counts of skill 1 is 8 hits, looks pretty good. Best teammate, well, you can kind of put in anyone, like Spirit Maiden Sarah can fit in any team, you know, stuff like that. But you kind of want to go for physical damage dealer, support, and then either another, and the other slot's kind of flexible, depends. But if you're just clearing story, I wouldn't really worry about it too much. Just make sure you have the damage dealer and the support. You should be fine in most content, because the story is pretty easy. but once you go on to the more difficult bosses, definitely a lot different. Especially this unit kind of needs to have 2 swords equipped, so you're going to need to reduce the enemy's resistance. That's going to be quite important, I think, on this unit. I think he does have some reduced resistance in his kit already, but we'll have a look at that when we get to it. Let's go back to these skills. Comparing to Belzard, well, I'll say for sure that I have no idea on his PvP performance compared to Belzar, because Belzar is an amazing PvP unit, but in PvE I can say for a fact, based on what I have seen so far, that Joshua looks like a much faster DPS than Belzar in PvE content, but we're gonna have to wait and see for more testing. But so far we have to wait and see. It's kind of hard to tell, but Belzar is incredibly good for PvP. Joshua, we're going to have to wait for more testing, but he's definitely better PvE-wise, at least, because fast skills and that kind of stuff, we'll have to test it out. But skill 1, 8 hits. This one looks pretty fast. I think you can spam this pretty well. All of his skills look pretty spammable, but I'm most excited about his skill 3. His skill 3 is definitely going to be his main skill that you're going to want to use pretty much all the time. As soon as you have a skill 3, just try and use it, because it's going to be his main skill. But let's move on to his skill 2 next. So skill 2 is a forward dash to close in for a medium area dark combo attack, and there's a chance to cut enemies' SET by 1 second. Interesting. I'm wondering if it's per hit and what the chance is, or if it's just when you use the skill there's a chance to cut the SET by 1 second, because reducing 1 second of SET really isn't going to do much, right? If you use the skill when it reduced 1 second, it's not really going to matter, right? But if it's a decent chance per hit on this skill, then I think it could be pretty good. And obviously in PvE content this won't matter because the enemies don't have SCT, so it's just a PvP focused thing. But his skill 2, 12 hits, could have been a bit better, but it's honestly not bad. All these skills look pretty good. And then his skill 3 is definitely the most important skill that I'm kind of looking forward to trying this out, because this just seems like a very spammable skill, honestly, and he does have some things in his kit that synergizes with skill 3 as well that boosts it a little bit. So skill 3 is a close the gap skill for a medium area dark combo attack. So it's great to have close the gap skill first of all. This one's 20 hits, which is okay. Could have been a bit higher, but 20 is fine, considering the fact that this skill 3 is going to be very fast. Now, when I saw the animations of it in the video, I wasn't super impressed because there was a bit of a delay the first time he uses the skill 3, but I have seen that apparently if you spam his skill 3, you can basically remove that delay of when he uses the skill 3, so you can end up spamming your skill 3 non-stop, and it's going to be pretty damn good. So I think his PvE potential for DPS is going to be quite strong. I don't think it's going to be comparable to someone like Callan, because she's incredibly top tier and on the highest end of damage dealers. I don't know if he can compare to that. It's going to have to wait for testing on that one. I would say probably not, but if you can make Joshua spam his skill 3, just pair Lena, if you have Lena with Honey Elixir or something, just keep spamming that on Joshua, so then he can just keep spamming his skill 3 just like you do with Callan. Then I think this could be pretty damn nice. I don't think it's going to be as good as Callan, but we're going to have to wait and see. But I am quite interested in seeing this performance in PvE, because I think it could be pretty strong. Yeah, I mean, his kind of... I wasn't excited about this unit because we've seen a lot of units like this in the past. And I want you to realise something if you haven't realised it yet. Look at how many fire and dark damage dealers we have that are collab units. Most of them, like 90% of the recent collab units over the past year have been either fire or dark, right? And it's kind of funny, but it is annoying because I would wish there would be some more elements for collabs. And also, I think dark is the most common for collab units as well. And we've had a hell of a lot of dual wield dark physical damage dealers. So the last one that we had was Velvet Crow. That wasn't that long ago. It was this year that we had that, and she was kind of mid, honestly. But Joshua seems at least based so far, seems a lot better. Very fast skills. Now his special, don't think it's going to be that crazy. Powerful dark combo attack to all enemies. This one's 47 hits, honestly. There isn't really too much to say about this one. It's nice to have a special that hits all enemies, that's for sure. But I don't think it's going to do too much. If he had true dual wield, it would have been amazing. Because doubling 47 hits that hits all enemies would have been pretty crazy. But he doesn't have true dual wield, sadly. Would have been nice. Would have been amazing, honestly. But it's fine. He does have dual wield, at least in his kit. Yeah, if he wasn't dark, I feel like he would have been a bit more interesting units, definitely. Because I feel like I don't really need dark, because we have Ascended Roland, we have Belzar, you know, we have a good selection of dark units available, so it's kind of difficult if you already have those dark units, then it kind of feels a bit more unnecessary to get this unit. But it really depends on his performance. Like, if there's a very high DPS ceiling on this unit, then it's a different story, right? And if he could have used Trishula, it would have been better, because then you could use him anywhere. But because he can't use Trishula, it kind of sucks, because if you've already got Ascended Rolands and Balezar and those types of units, and you just don't need a dark damage dealer, then I don't know, you don't really need it. I mean, asking for a non-attribute unit, it rarely happens. The last one we had was Lollyhar. The last collab one we had, I don't remember. Val doesn't really count, because he wasn't really used as a non-attribute, was he? No, never. I mean, you could, arguably, but it wasn't really. Well, Telestio's great because of his EX drain, or whatever it's called, debuff, to reduce the enemy's defense by 50%. So Telestio is probably a better pair because he can be used as support in higher end content, at least. That's what a lot of people do with Telestio in end game content, is bosses have such high defense that you have to reduce their defense by a lot. So these minus 50% defense debuffs are quite valuable. So yes, Balezar would probably be better if you're not struggling to hit the damage cap, then Balezar's probably going to benefit you more because of his charisma. So you could have a dark team with Joshua and Balezar and Spirit Maiden Sarah. I think that's going to be pretty good for PvE, but the problem with that team is if the enemy has incredibly high dark resistance, you're kind of screwed. And if you can't reduce it to below 100, then the team isn't really going to work. So isn't too much of an issue because you could use Weak and Holy Circle to reduce dark resistance by enough. Sword Ally, I don't think so. I mean, we're still going through the kit. Let's have a look at his traits next. So the traits always get a lot more interesting. Trait 1, when two weapons are equipped, increase dark damage by 40% and damage cap by 50,000 is pretty nice. And for each sword equipped, increase strength by 20%. So this is great. You know why? Because it says each sword equipped. It doesn't say when a sword is equipped, or it doesn't say increase sword strength by 20%. It increases all of your strength by 20% for each sword. So that means you're getting a maximum of plus 40% technically. So you get 2 lots of plus 20%. So that is already a lot of strength. And strength has become a lot more useful over the past year or so because of the endgame content, and units like Melza have an incredibly high defense that can't be pierced. These high strength and high stat units are becoming a lot more useful, and some units like Shift Lenius scales very heavily off of intelligence as well, and he can also get very high intelligence. I'm just mentioning that because stat increases can sometimes be a big deal, and they are quite important, especially in PvE content against bosses. Going to be very important. So I do like this strength increase, maximum of plus 40% when you have 2 swords equipped. It's going to be very nice. So I do like that a lot, and it's going to stack with everything else. So very nice that you're getting damage and some strength, 40%. And when using a skill, there's a chance to restore all skills SCT by 5 seconds. I'm wondering what the chance is of this. We're really going to have to see, but if it's like 50% or something good enough, more reliable enough, then I think it could be pretty good, because 5 seconds isn't that much, but it is to every single one of your skills, so I do think it's going to be quite useful. And it is going to help newer players that may not have access to SCT regen skills, because when you're using a skill, there's a chance to restore all of your skills SCT by 5 seconds. So it's going to restore all of your SCT, all of your skills SCT. So I do think it's going to be quite nice here, for sure. Mostly in PvE content, I think it's going to allow you to spam your skills a lot more often. So basically, if you have max skill stocks of your skill 1 and you use all of them, then you should be able to get another skill 1 or 2 back from using those, so it's very nice. And then his trait 2, this is also going to be pretty damn good when attacking with skill 3 or special. So his skill 3 or his special, his skill 3 is this is what's going to boost his skill 3 and make it a hell of a lot more useful. There is a chance to deal fatal strike damage. So if you don't know what this is, it's because we've only ever had this on one unit so far, and that unit was Shift de Groog, and she was kind of mid because her fatal strike could only be activated when an enemy was in break or fainted, and that was very specific. And with Joshua, it's a hell of a lot different because he has a chance to deal a fatal strike when he's using his skill 3 or his special. So this is going to be dangerous, and I'm saying that because in PvP, this is going to be the first unit in PvP that can really use fatal strike and do fatal strike damage. So it makes me a little bit worried that fatal strike could potentially be quite strong as it's a new damage type, but we're really going to have to see on what the chance is and how strong it's going to be in arena and guild battles. But there is some potential here that fatal strike, this is the first fatal strike units that can work in PvP, so that by itself is quite interesting and could be quite scary potentially. 6.5 anniversary, I don't know, I think it's going to be, when was the last one? It's probably going to be in a few months. I don't keep track of it. Last one was 4 months ago, so probably in 2 months. Maybe it's probably in October then, isn't it? I think it is. It says on description 1.5% chance. That's great. If it is per 1.5% per hit, that's gonna be pretty good. We'll get back to that. Okay, let's continue reading this trait too. First of all, physical attack and special damage to enemies that nullify instant kill, which includes bosses, arena and guild battles, plus 30% in damage cap, plus 30,000 when physically or special attacking. So basically what this means, this part of the trait is very wordy, but basically what it means is to enemies that nullify insta-kill, you're going to do more damage and have more damage cap on your physical and special attacks. So in every form of PvP, you're going to get 30% more physical damage basically, and against bosses that nullify, that can't get insta killed, you're also going to get increased damage and damage cap. So in most cases it's going to be active, and I think that's pretty nice. And also defense to minus 20% and deal damage, so that's some guaranteed piercing right there. And because that is a comma, that does mean that it is going to be tied to this, so that defense piercing is going to be to enemies that nullify insta-kill effects. So getting guaranteed 20% defense piercing on all of your physical attacks, going to be very nice. Considering he doesn't have a machine, he has 2 swords, so getting that defense piercing effect definitely going to be quite useful for sure. And then when defeating an enemy, here's a new type of buff that this unit has. When defeating an enemy, give this unit the jet black buff for 10 seconds. Now what this buff does is, when this buff is active, it increases your strength by 50%, and damage taken is reduced by 50%. That's pretty nuts, right? And on top of that, skill 3 and special fatal strike chance is increased by 1.5%. So we don't know what the base chance is of fatal strike, but when you have this buff active, it will increase your fatal strike chance by an extra 1.5%. So that's pretty good, and this jet black buff does sound pretty damn strong because it's giving you a strength buff and damage taken and the fatal strike chance, and because these are the effects that you're getting when you have this unique icon buff active, that means this 50% strength buff is going to stack with brave, and because they are different icons, so that's going to be quite good. You're getting a lot of strength already in his traits. You're getting a maximum plus 40% from his trait 1 and another plus 50% from his trait 2. And it can get even higher than that as well, because it's not even included brave and other strength up skills as well, so that's pretty nuts. I think that could be great. Now obviously the main downside of this is this buff only lasts 10 seconds and you have to kill an enemy, but we'll get back to that because I know there is a skill in his skills that does something to this as well, so keep that in mind. We'll go back to that later on, but so far these traits, trait 1 very short but is quite good, trait 2 a lot longer, but so far you're seeing a lot of damage, a lot of strength, right? And yes, technically he is just a damage dealer, but the potential damage and strength that he can have so far seems pretty high, because you're getting a 40% plus another 30% guaranteed piercing and a lot of strength stats, so it seems pretty good so far in his traits. Yeah, if you're a completely new player, definitely rolling on this collab is a good idea, because you never know if this is going to get a rerun or not. We have no idea, so I do recommend to try to get some things from this collab, but I do want to, you know, I do want to go more in depth of which banner is better to pull on a bit later on. So far I can't be sure because I'm still going over this unit, but part 1 seems like it might have a bit more value because the Arks actually pretty good and the unit does have some supported buffs, so it might be a bit better to pull on part 1. That's just my initial thoughts on the current banners, but we'll definitely get back to that later on. So now let's have a look at his passive skills. So he doesn't have any magic spells whatsoever, so he's not going to be providing any team supported buffs or anything, which kind of sucks. So his main role is definitely a main damage dealer. That's what they are making him as, and you can definitely tell that so far because he doesn't have any supported buffs in his kit at all, and I'm not always a fan of that because I like supportive buffs, but if a unit is completely like very strong of a damage dealer, then it makes sense, because getting a high tier damage dealer doesn't always happen. I mean, it's more common than a support, I'll be honest. So attack up max, even more strength, heroism up 1 and max, even more strength. Oh god, he's gonna have so much strength. I can already feel it. I can already see it. Like 40% plus 50% plus another 15% plus 5% plus another 15%. There's going to be a lot of strength, and also he has auto EX Brave. You know what EX Brave is? I believe it's another 50% strength buff. So that's nuts. That's crazy. Proud Force, Illusion, Human Buster. Yeah, we've seen some units that have had Human Buster in the past, like King Bradley also had Human Buster, and he was also a dual wield dark physical sword damage dealer, so they're very similar units, I'll be honest. Auto high protection, auto critical and haste, so he does have all of these buffs, so don't need to worry about having those. EX Brave, we're probably going to start seeing EX skills being a bit more common on damage dealers. I think that's going to be a thing, but I am very interested to see the incredibly high strength stats that you can get on this unit. Yeah, Giga Weak is still pretty nice to have on a unit because it saves SC and it's pretty good skill that you would use on most content. Awaken 2, Gale Force, I like this because more SCT recovery speed, which will stack with obviously haste, so that's nice. Dark Drive, Giga Drive, Attack Raise 2, Attack Raise 5, Pose of Glory, less speed, dual wield, twin wield boost 4, so when you have weapons, two of the same type of weapons equipped, then you get more physical damage and damage cap. So it's definitely recommended to use 2 swords because he has twin wield boost 4, and he also has the straight 1, which increases strength for each of sword that you have equipped. So it's definitely recommended to have 2 swords equipped. Yes, you could have a sword plus something else, but it's not going to be as good because I know you can put on different weapon equipped boost skills, but it's not going to be worth it because what you're missing out on is twin wield boost 4, which is a good amount of damage and damage cap, and also the 20% extra strength. So definitely, even if you don't have 2 good sword options, definitely have 2 swords anyways. 5k attack with only innate skills, that's pretty nuts. I feel like his strength's going to be so high, and if he hits hard, I think there's some potential here. Yeah. Yeah, Joshua and Estelle could definitely work in the same team for sure. You could have Joshua, Estelle plus Spirit Maiden Sarah. It could actually work. It could definitely work. Because Estelle and Spirit Maiden Sarah fit in most teams. Well, Spirit Maiden Sarah fits in every single team ever, but Estelle can fit in basically every single physical team, kind of. I say kind of because it depends on the content you're going into, but in story stage, sure. Unclad Power. Guess what we didn't need? More strength, and we got more strength. Love it. Strength's going to be so high. It's going to be nuts. I've got to tell. Sword high boost and giga boost. Very nice. Special boost 5. Dog Eat Dog 2. Cloak of Majesty 2. And same type dual wield attribute Pierce is a very long name for a skill. And it's new. So when you are equipped with 2 weapons of the same type and enemy attribute resistance cuts skill / special damage, it cuts the resistance by 50% deal damage. You know why this is crazy? You know why this is so good? Because this is guaranteed reduced resistance, right? And if the enemy has 100 dark resistance, it's going to reduce it by 50%, which means it's going to reduce it to 50, which is crazy. Now, of course, if they had 50 dark resistance, it's not going to reduce it to 0. It's going to reduce it to 25 because 50% of their resistance. So, but if they had, for instance, 1000 dark resistance, it will reduce it to 500. So it's funny, but the thing that is so good about this skill is it's not a chance. It says it cuts the resistance by 50% and deal damage when you have 2 weapons equipped all the time. So this is a very good skill for sure. I know there are certain tanks in PvP that can nullify this effect. They nullify attribute piercing. There's a couple of tanks that do that. But in boss stages, this will be quite useful, and you know why? Because this is basically like half of a Trishula. Almost there. It's 50% of a Trishula basically in a skill. So if an enemy has 100 dark resistance, you don't really need to worry about it too much because it's still going to, you're still going to be able to do damage because it's going to treat it as the enemy having 50. So quite a good skill there for sure. Now we have the skill Fatal Strike, but this is quite important. This skill is not the same as, you know, the Fatal Strike. Damage type is completely different. It's just a skill that has the same name as Fatal Strike, so it's got nothing to do with it. Chance for physical attacks to insta kill, and in arena and guild battles or against bosses that can't be insta killed, then increase physical damage by 20%, and 10% defense piercing as well. So that's a very nice skill to have as well. We have seen it before, it's not completely new, but it is a very nice skill, and we don't see it very often, so it is more guaranteed piercing and more physical damage to enemies that can't get insta-killed, so it's a very nice skill. Yeah, it's going to be likely that we're going to see more reducing attribute resistances, I think, but this is pretty nuts, I have to say. Now we get onto his unique skills, which is always fun. So, chance for special to deal criticals, and at the start of the battle, restore 1 SCT stock for 1 skill, so that's basically another quick trigger. If you equip quick trigger, it will stack with it, of course, because it's a different skill. At the start of the battle, give revive effect to this unit, and it doesn't have a time limit, and when this unit is revived, gives this unit a damage taken minus 50% buff for 20 seconds, which is pretty nuts, because 50% damage taken minus 50% damage taken buff, it's going to be quite effective, so I think that's going to be nice. And here is a very good skill, which ties into his trait 2, Fatal Strike again. Well, his Jet Black buff and Fatal Strike, so his trait 2. This one, at the start of the battle, it gives you the Jet Black buff for 10 seconds. So you don't even need to kill an enemy to get this at the start of the battle, because this will give it to you at the start of the battle for 10 seconds, which is crazy, and that is going to make it quite strong in PvP, especially Arena. If he can survive, then at the start of the battle, he should be hitting pretty hard, and that's going to be crazy. When skill and special attacking, chance to insta-kill, so that is another chance of insta-killing. So these are separate chances, but they will stack, and you can even put on Death God or whatever it's called to have extra chances of insta-killing. So he could be pretty good at insta-killing normal enemies, which is funny. Because I say that because he's got insta-kill plus he's got more damage to enemies that can't be insta-killed, so he's got like covers both really, which is nice. And on top of that, increase Fatal Strike damage by 100%. Amazing. 100% more Fatal Strike damage. It's going to be quite nuts in Arena, in guild battles. If you can land a Fatal Strike hit, I feel like it should be able to do a hell of a lot of damage, but it really depends on his actual base damage, because if his physical damage can hit pretty hard, then his Fatal Strike is going to hit a massive amount of damage, so it really depends on his physical damage potential in PvP to really see if this is going to be any good, but there is some potential here, and I like it. And the next one, increase strength, more strength. Love it, more strength, and less defense, and more critical rate. So, a very nice skill, because more strength, more critical rate is going to be nice for sure. I mean, you don't really need more strength. I mean, more strength can't hurt, right? It's still going to be useful. Enemy attention drawn -2. Chance to evade physical and magic attacks. Quite nice. Nothing crazy, but enemy attention drawn -2, definitely quite useful. For sure, because then he's not going to get hit as often, so I do like that. That's all of his unique skills. Now let's have a quick look at his Sigma Enhanced skills down here. We've also got another same type dual wield skill, so when you have 2 of the same type of weapons equipped, increase your damage cap by 15,000, quite a lot. More special damage cap, chance to nullify physical damage taken, take less damage by 15%, increase strength and defense by 20%. And when you have a sword equipped, increase physical damage by 20%, damage cap by 7,500, and then more movement speed and chance to nullify physical and magical damage when you're moving. So far, this kit seems pretty damn strong, I have to say, and you can definitely see that he is a main damage dealer. That's his main role, because he doesn't provide any form of supportive buffs to the team, which is fine as long as he can hit hard and can do very fast damage. So far, I feel like there is some quite high potential here. The reason why I'm saying that is he has incredibly high strength, His skills look very fast, especially his skill 3 looks very spammable for PvE content. And his Fatal Strike on his skill 3, that could be pretty strong in PvP as well. So I do think there is some potential in PvE and PvP to be quite a strong damage dealer, but it really depends on his actual damage modifiers and how hard he hits on his physical damage. If he can manage to hit hard enough to kill like a Melzer at base 100 SC, then he's going to be a very strong unit, I can say for sure. And in PvE content, we're going to have to really see on his DPS, but I don't think it's going to be as good as Callan, but I think it might be pretty similar. It depends on his damage cap, really. I don't know what his damage cap is like, but I'm hoping it's enough. It should be decent. I saw in the unit test play quest it was around 140,000, which is decent, but I wish it was a bit higher than that, because I know Callan can reach like 108,000. So, but yeah, so far there's a hell of a lot of damage in his kit, a lot of damage, and strength, and human buster. So compare to Balezar, yeah, no. Comparing to Balezar DPS is very low because his skills are very slow. So Joshua's going to be a hell of a lot better in PvE content than Balezar because of Joshua's fast, spammable skills and the fact that he's dual wield, got a lot of strength. You know, the main advantage Balezar has is he can get a lot of stats and he can hit quite hard, so he can allow you to, you know, clear content that may have higher stats. But he isn't the best to use in PvE honestly, because he's just very slow. So not that many people use him in PvE because he's very slow. But Joshua's going to be a lot better in PvE for sure. And you can always pair both at the same time. The main thing about Balezar is he's more PvP focused, I think. And he can also use magic. So that's a bit of a difference as well. Joshua's a main physical damage dealer, very fast skills. I do think this unit has some potential to be quite strong of a physical damage dealer, but it all depends on testing and what his physical damage is like in PvP, because I think in PvE it's going to be no problems for him to hit damage cap because he has incredibly high strengths, and that definitely helps in PvE a lot. So I only recommend to pull on Balezar's banner if you care about PvP at all. If you don't care about arena or audio battles, then you don't really need to worry about Balezar, unless you just really like him. I personally really like Balezar, and I already have him plus his UR Ark. He's probably my most used PvP unit currently. He's very good. Yeah, then don't worry about it then. Joshua, can he compete with Ascended Roland is the question. I have to say probably. I feel like Joshua should be able to do a bit better than Ascended Roland because Joshua has very high strength and he can even reduce enemy dark resistance by 50%, so that's quite important, and I don't think Ascended Roland can even do that. And Joshua's skills look a lot faster. I know Ascended Roland has his 100% crit rate, but it's kind of RNG, and I just think Joshua's going to be better overall, which kind of sucks, that and it kind of makes you realize how fast damage dealers, especially physical damage dealers, get power crept in this game, because I think Joshua's probably going to dethrone Ascended Roland based on what I've seen so far, but we have to wait in testing. But I'm just saying there's some potential here. So I am excited to do more testing on this unit, and I'm hoping I get this unit, even though he is just a damage dealer at the end of the day, which you may not need if you already have a high top tier damage dealer. But yeah, Demon's Ascended Roland is a dark unit, so that's why people are going to compare them for sure. We have a lot of dark units, honestly, but I think Joshua's going to be the fastest dark damage dealer in the game because of his very fast skills. and high strength stats to allow him to hit damage cap a lot easier. So, and his dual wield, you can even give him a Icy Guardian and give crit rate if you really want to. So I do think it's going to be quite strong, especially if you build Lena, which you should build Lena right now if you haven't yet. Do it, and her insight is very important. And if you have Honey Elixir, then spamming Joshua's skill 3, it's going to be amazing. Have to say it. Yeah, there is potential in the future, like in a couple years, that these units are going to get insight skills and be even stronger. But that's going to be like incredibly long time from now. I wouldn't worry about it. So let's have a look at the Ark next. I think the unit is definitely the main focus of this banner, but I think the Ark looks okay as well. I don't think it's going to be as good as the Part 1 Ark, because I think the Part 1 Ark is more useful. But let's have a look at this one. So the trait on this, when physically attacking, there is a chance to insta-kill. That's quite nice, because that will stack with other chances to insta-kill as well. And dark damage is increased by 35% and damage cap is increased by 4,000 to bosses and enemies that nullify insta-kill in arena and guild battles, etc. So the best thing about this is dark damage and damage cap to any enemy that nullifies insta-kill effects means any form of dark damage, so even your magic spells in arena, it's going to increase your dark magic damage by 35%. It's kind of nice, really. It's not going to be as good as Venom Dragon, but it's still going to be pretty nice, and you can use this on a dual wield damage dealer like Joshua, for instance, and it's going to increase his damage cap by 4,000 against bosses, which is quite nice, and dark physical damage as well. It's not crazy good because there are much better options, like Icy Guardian is still one of the best options to use with high crit rate. It's going to be a lot better for PvE for sure. And obviously you've got the sussy new UI Ark skill that increased damage cap by a ton as well, so those two are definitely a lot better. Chance for critical damage, 100%. Now, I'm really curious to see what this chance is. I have a feeling is probably going to be quite low. Maybe if it's like 10%, I would think that would be reasonable. Chance to evade physical and magic attacks as well. You know what? I think this trait could be very good in PvP. So in arena, you do 35% more dark damage, and there's a chance for critical damage to be increased by 100%. That's why I think this could be quite a strong PvP damage arc, because you've got a lot of damage potential in here, especially if you have enough crit rates, then your dark damage dealers could hit pretty hard with this because of the chance for 100% critical damage. But if it's something incredibly stupid like 1% chance, it's basically going to be like non-existent. But does this make Bradley viable? Well, no, because Bradley's very old at this point, so his viability is not going to be as good. I haven't seen anyone use him in a very long time, so I don't know. But I would say he can probably work at high SC, but comparing him to more recent units, especially Joshua, is going to be not going to work, because he's a lot older of a unit. And I think Joshua is basically King Bradley 2.0. That's what I think. Should you max out this arc? Well, if you have it, then you might as well level it up to at least level 10. You should level up every arc to level 10. It's not a... it shouldn't be your main, focus on leveling arcs, honestly, because there are more important arcs to level up. Like, you can probably check the tier list for that if you really want to, but yes, if you do have this, it's going to be quite good on Joshua, I think. So I would at least level it up to 10, for sure. Now, the learnable skills on this, Shadow Rush, pretty nice. Power Circulation, we've seen that before, it's not that amazing. Black Fang is new. When you have a dark weapon equipped, increase dark damage cap by 2,000 and strength by 10%. For 7 SC, it's okay. It's not bad because more strength, which will stack, and more damage cap's pretty nice, but for 7SC, is it worth using? I think it's only worth using this if you know you can take advantage of both the damage cap and the strength. So on Joshua it's going to be quite good, which is funny, because this is on his banner as well, so getting him with the Ark is actually going to be quite nice, because guess what's on this Ark as well? Twin Wheel Boost 2. It's funny, when equipped with two weapons of the same type, increase physical damage by 10% and damage cap by 2000. For 6SC it's not the best, because only 10% damage and 2000 damage cap. It's not that high, it's not... 6SC for 10% damage is not worth it, but for the extra damage cap it's probably worth it for PvE content only. In PvP I would never use it, but in PvE for the extra damage cap I would most likely use it on Joshua for sure, definitely. And then the last one here, if at least 2 allies have this skill set, then it boosts special damage cap to bosses. So if you have 2 allies, increased by 5,000, it goes up to 15,000 when you have 4 allies with it equipped. Honestly, I don't care about it too much because special damage isn't that important in most content. In most cases, you're not really worrying too much about special damage caps, so I don't think I would really use that ever. But so far, these learnable skills seem useful specifically for Joshua, right? But apart from that, yes, it could get some use outside of Joshua if you're using any dark weapon on a dark damage dealer, then this could be nice. And if you're using a unit that has 2 of the same type of weapons equipped, then this could be good as well. But apart from that, it's kind of very situational, so it doesn't have too much value. It doesn't have that much value for learnable skills in my opinion, but they are still useful for sure. And then the Archive reward is a accessory which has a good amount of strength and gradually boosts strength over time, maximum of plus 20% at 60 seconds and resets each wave. It's not that crazy honestly, unless you need more strength. So on crest bosses, so in the Battlegraph Simulator, this could be useful in Battlegraph Simulator for sure. And that's probably the main use I would get out of this, is in Battlegraph Simulator. Where a new character wants to spam special a lot, yeah. Well, that hasn't happened for like an incredibly long time, that I feel like it's not even going to happen at this point. Like, yeah, we've had a couple of special damage dealers, but they're not... None of them have ever been like top meta for special damage, and we haven't had something like that in ages, so... You could keep your hopes up if you like, but I'm not gonna, because it's not very likely, because we rarely get it. But this accessory seems okay, but would I use it over other accessory options? Depending on what I have, really. I probably wouldn't, but if you need more strength desperately in crest bosses, then maybe. But apart from that, not the best, I suppose. But it's not bad. I just wish it had some extra damage on top of it, because just 20% strength for an accessory, I mean, and you've got to wait 60 seconds, that's the main downside of it, and it resets each wave, so I would use it sometimes, occasionally, against Battlegraph Simulator bosses. That's probably about it, really. So, overall this Ark looks pretty good, I'll be honest, but it doesn't have anything like stupidly broken, and it doesn't have anything that has too much value, really. Like, this Ark, you can tell that it's specifically made for Joshua for sure, because increased damage when you have a dark weapon and 2 weapons of the same type, you know, more strength. You can definitely see that this is made for Joshua, really. But the trait is probably one of the better things about this Ark. It really depends on what the chance of the critical damage 100% is. If this is a decent enough chance, then this could be a good Ark trait to use in arena and guild battles, I think. So it really depends on the chance of that critical damage. But I do think this Ark looks okay, but I would honestly prefer the unit. Yeah, well, the art looks nice. I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. The art always looks nice in this game, so nothing different really. I mean, if you know about this collab and you've played, you know about the series, then you're probably more interested in the artwork than I am. But, you know, I think it's a decent arc, but I think part 1 arc is better. And I'll show that to you quickly. Because of this one skill right here is very useful, and that's definitely the most useful thing about this arc is this one skill that increases damage cap to your high strength ally. This one's a very useful skill to have. It's not worth pulling just to get it, but if you get this arc, it's definitely quite a useful one to have for sure. That's gonna be, you know, very useful in PvE content for the damage cap, so I do think it's gonna be nice. Better than the part 2 arc, definitely. But this isn't bad. If you get the part 2 arc, even though you didn't want it, it's still going to be useful, I think. But I do think the unit is probably going to be more useful in this banner. At least so far. I know arcs they can be used long term, and it's likely that this unit is going to be power crept a lot quicker than the arc. So, I mean, up to you really, but let's have a look at his paid equipments next, because I haven't seen those yet. So he has a paid sword and an accessory. So let's have a look at the sword first. I believe the sword is the better one, that's what I've heard. So let's have a look. So obviously a dark sword. Dark physical and special damage is increased by 35%, that's pretty nice. Increased strength by 10%. Wow, more strength. That's funny. And when you have 2 weapons equipped, skill-free fatal strike rate is increased by another 1.5%. That's funny, because we haven't seen something like this before, and yeah, this is a pretty crazy sword. The damage potential on this sword is pretty high. The biggest downside of the sword is it doesn't provide damage cap. So if you are looking for more damage cap for PvE, then this probably isn't the best option. Well, thanks for showing up and being here anyways. Always like people showing up to these streams when they can, so yeah. I know, this sword's pretty nuts. Yeah, I have to say it, it's a very good sword. You don't need it, but it is a very good sword, I have to say that. For PvP, yes, because the amount of damage it's given is quite a lot. But if you don't care about PvP as much, then you don't really need it. And you can always just use Muramasa, because that gives you 25% physical damage anyways. So the difference isn't too high, but the Fatal Strike chance is probably the main thing that people are going to think about. Like, more Fatal Strike chance? Yeah, that's going to be nuts, for sure, because it's a new type of damage, so... Yeah, I have to say, if I get this unit, and if he ends up being incredibly strong, which he probably is, then I'm gonna get this sword. I definitely want to get this sword, but if you're free to play, don't worry about it, because you can just get Muramasa, God Forge that, and that's gonna be just as good, so yeah, that's fine. And then his accessory, good amount of strength and defense. Dark physical damage increased by 20% and damage cap 3000, and chance to evade physical and magic attacks. Apparently, this was supposed to have increased fatal strike damage, but they removed it. Apparently, that's probably someone leaking. But this accessory is okay, but I wouldn't get it because it's just giving you some damage and damage cap and chance to evade. Yes, it's good for an accessory, but you don't need it because we have a lot of existing dark damage accessories, especially Equilibrium Sphere, and that is a free-to-play accessible accessory that increases dark physical damage by 15%, so... And there's other accessories as well, so I don't think this is necessary. You don't need this one. If I were to select one, definitely get the sword. You don't need the accessory at all. I would definitely select the sword, because more Fatal Strike chance, more damage, more strength. It's going to be amazing for sure. And I would definitely like to get this one if I get the unit. That's a big if, because I don't know, probably not, but we'll see. But don't worry about this accessory. It's good, but you don't need it unless you have 50 credentials already. But yeah, this sword is definitely going to be a good one. Only for damage though. If you don't care about PvP, then just ignore it. You don't need it at all. If you're free to play, again, don't worry about paid equipments, but I do like to cover them just so people are aware, and just in case you're considering of getting one of these, which one's the better one. In this case, it's going to be the sword that's the better choice, so there you go. That is everything in regards to the unit and the Ark so far. I do want to do some testing on this unit very soon. Now, unfortunately, I can't get the 10 pull ticket yet because players are being lazy and not farming the event stage enough, so I can't get the 10 pull ticket. Wish I would have had it for the stream, but can't get it yet because we're currently at 53%, so once this gets to 100% we get a 10 pull ticket. I wish I had it now because I would like to have the ticket for today, but because I like doing the summons, all the summons in the stream, but so that's everything for the unit for the moment. I suppose what we should do next is do some summons. Before this unit was announced, or before we saw this unit's kit, I wasn't super excited because I thought it was just going to be a damage dealer. But because he has Fatal Strike, very fast skills, and some high damage potential, I think he's going to be quite useful. So I would like to get this unit for sure. And honestly, I feel like this unit is going to be more interesting and fun to use than Estelle. But that's just what I'm thinking so far. I would like to try to get this unit today if possible. I'm going to be using all my tickets and the lap 1 step gacha and just see how it goes. But I'm really hoping that if we get something today that we get the unit, because the unit is the main thing that I'm looking forward to testing, because he just seems quite interesting and has some good potential. So let's use all our tickets first. Let's use these 6 and then the temple. We can't get the temple ticket until the event stage is at 100%, so that I won't be able to do that in the stream, so that kind of sucks because I have 1 10 pull less technically. But I'm not going to be pitying anything. I'm just going to hope that we get Joshua if we can, because he would just seem very nice. If I get the Ark, I'm not going to complain about it, but I still don't have Estelle yet. I think she would be nice, but I think I've decided I'm not going to be pulling for her. That's the first Telestio dupe I think I've got, and maybe the second because he's at +4 now, but getting any dupe of Telestio is quite nice, but I wish that was Joshua. But Telestio dupe is probably the best dupe you can get. Now, this temple is the last tickets that I have. Currently, you should be able to get access to 13 tickets. I got 3 from the shop, and then the other 13 was from the events and the present box. Let's hope we can get something from this. Doesn't look like it. That sucks. So there needed to be animations on that one. Since there were no animations, there's not going to be anything in this one. Which sucks, because I still haven't gotten anything at all from tickets. It's terrible. But I'm definitely going to be doing some crystals, but I'm not going to be going super hard, but we'll see how it goes, I think. Currently, I'm going to be skipping part 1, I think. I have been doing the daily paid pulls. Yeah, I mean, there's always stuff coming up in this game, so I would still like to get this unit. I mean, I don't need him, I understand that, but I think he'll be fun. And pretty strong overall. And he's a collab unit. So, I'm definitely going to do a couple of pulls. Try and get a few reds to see if we can get the unit if possible. If we get the Ark, I'll probably call that the stopping point. Or if we get one of the two, I'm going to stop there probably, like we did in part 1, but let's hope we at least get one of them. That's kind of the goal for today. And let's do lap 1. Obviously nothing in that one. Okay, well, I didn't think there was going to be a red, but I was hoping for it to be new. But I'm pretty sure I have every single permanent SSR Ark now. So if it is new, it should be either the new Ark or unit. I don't think I'm missing any permanent units, am I? I don't think so. But there might be one or two that I'm missing, I don't know. No, I'm not watching that because it's a blue. See, I would only watch it if it was a gold. Well, if you're a new player, if you're literally just starting and re-rolling, don't go to pity, try and get them early. And wait for the temple ticket as well. Because at that point, if you're literally just starting and re-rolling, and you had to go to pity, then you're better off starting a new account at that point, probably. Yeah, obviously nothing from that, it sucks, but... Yeah, if you started on a stale, then it depends on what your account currently has. Really. But now is probably the best time to re-roll once we get the part 2 temple ticket. Once we get that temple ticket, that's going to be the best time to re-roll. So later on today, once that event stage is at 100%, that would be the perfect time to re-roll for anyone that's considering starting this game. I'm going to be doing some summers with free crystals. We'll do a temple and see, and then we'll probably do some single pulls as well. See if we can get this unit, because I think it's going to be fun. I'm not going to be going super hard on this banner, but I want to at least do a decent amount to hopefully have a chance to get this unit. I don't have any hopes, but I'm going to watch this one anyways, because you never know. 3 animations, still not guaranteed, because nobody showed up. There was a red, apparently. Only one? There's 2. Can you be new? No, you're not. Oh, can you be the unit, please? Thank God, I'm happy. We got the one thing that I wanted, so I don't have to worry about this banner anymore. Perfect. That's great. I was kind of a bit worried about this banner, that I wasn't going to get the unit, but that's awesome. And then we can do a bit more testing with this guy. And also, I do want to get his paid sword, because I think that's going to be pretty good. So I do want to get that one. So because of that, I will be going over to the paid step banner so I can get enough credentials to get his paid sword. Now, usually I wouldn't recommend doing this, but I'm going to do it because I like this sword, and I feel like he seems like he's going to be quite a good unit for a decent amount of time, so I don't mind doing this for a unit that has some potential to be pretty good long term. So, well, not super long term, but we'll see. So we'll do a temple, 4 single pulls, that'll be all for today, 4 summons at least, and then we'll start showcasing this unit, so that'll be fun. Because then I can use his paid sword plus Muramasa. I'm not going to be getting his other paid accessory, because I don't need it. Getting him in the free 10 pull ticket, that's amazing. And the LRR on 30 pulls pretty damn good, because the rates on this game, 0.8%, kind of small. So getting anything new in a small amount of sums is always going to be a positive, I think, in this game. There's a red. There's a chance we could get the Ark from this, but it's not likely. I don't have my hopes up at all. See? Pretty much what I expected. Would have been nice, but I'm not going to be pulling for the Ark. I don't see enough value in the Ark. I mean, I can see it's going to be useful, but I don't feel like I want it that badly, so trying to hunt specifically for the 0.8% chance for this Ark, I'm not going to be doing that. So let's do 4 single pulls here, and then that will give us enough for the paid weapon. I'll trade the medals for 2 single pull tickets, and then that'll be it. And that's the last one. There we go. Right. Now I have enough to get this weapon. Definitely going to be getting that one. Not going to be spending any more crystals. Going to be saving now. I will get 2 more tickets from here because I'm not going to be... I don't need my medals for anything else. And then we might as well use those 2 tickets right now. And there is going to be another temple ticket later today, once we get that, hopefully today. And there is a chance that that temple ticket could give the Ark. That would be nice, but I'm not going to be expecting anything. I'm only going to watch this if it looks promising, and this one does not. So there you go. That is all the summons we're going to be doing. Honestly, pretty good, considering we've got that unit, which I think is pretty nice. I'm going to go switch over to Steam, because we're not going to be using any more paid crystals. And then I do want to start showcasing this unit, do a bit of testing if we can. Because I got the unit, I can now showcase the unit in the story. Goddess Littleheart or Joshua, well, they're completely different units, so it depends on your team. But they would technically work together if you have Joshua plus Goddess Littleheart and a support healer. That would be pretty good. So I'm definitely going to be building him now. I do have a good amount of crystals saved, just for anything that's coming up, and just in case I change my mind about Estelle, because I'm not 100% sure if I want to pull for Estelle yet or not. But she definitely looks useful, I just don't feel like it's something I need. So I highly recommend to only pull for things that you feel like are going to benefit your account the most long term. If it's just for fun, like I stopped pulling for every single unit and every single arc ages ago because it's a bad idea. Yeah, I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to pull for that. I just want to check. So that is all the sums I want to do. I do love this, by the way, so thanks for everyone that's doing this, because the crystal's definitely helping. These crystals from this list has got reset last week. That was nice. So, made me think about what I want to do first of all. Yeah, let's start building him then. Obviously, I don't have any skills taught to him yet, so we're not going to be doing a full build. I'm just going, what I like to do with these unit showcases, if I get the units, I like to showcase them at base skills only. So I do want to try out his performance with just his base skills to see if he's doing any meaningful damage. Because if he can do a decent amount of damage with just his passive base skills at level 100, then you can definitely see some potential, because there's a hell of a lot of room for improvement once you've, built him. So I'm going to be using a rainbow potion for sure, definitely. I should be able to get level 52 soon. And I should have enough materials to get all of the skills. Come on. So what's his ward? It's pretty nice. Sword. When you have a sword equipped, which most units in this game have a sword equipped, so it's going to be a nice ward. More damage cap. And let's unlock everything that we can. Which I should have enough materials. Yep. Already got 2,400 strength and I don't even have any equipment on him. It's looking good so far. There's some more souls there as well. So, recommended equipment for this unit is going to be pretty easy because he has, you know, his trait 1, which has 20% more strength for each sword equipped, and he has a few twin wield boost skills like this one, and I know he does have a Sixth Hearts one as well, so you definitely must have 2 swords equipped. I know he can also equip machine and claws and anything else, but it's highly recommended to have 2 swords. I'm going to be using his paid sword plus another one, but I will be going over other options as well. So Muramasa is definitely going to be one of the best sword options for him because 25% more physical damage is going to be great. So I think this one's going to be a very good option. Summoner Breath is like a hybrid support ailment DPS unit. You can check my live stream on that if you're interested, because I go more in depth on that. But after some testing with her, she isn't that broken, and most people kind of underwhelmed with that unit. I wasn't that much because I still feel like she's going to be useful. A lot of people were hating on her too much. That's my opinion at least. But she is quite a useful unit. Not something you need though. She's more of a you know, something that you would like to have but don't need type of unit. Sword of Lost Souls would also be a decent sword option because then your special's going to ignore resistance, but honestly isn't super necessary because he has the reduced resistance by 50% in his kit already. So, but this does give 15% physical damage, so that can still be nice. There aren't really any good dark sword options really. This one is decent, but it's not the best. This one was from a collab as well, so I don't think it's not that great. And these are all specifically single wield, so they won't work. Skill anti-type damage. If you have any of these event weapons, they could be pretty good. Like there should be a dark one around here somewhere, unless there's one in the event. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see too many. But honestly, even if you don't have that many good sword options currently, I think definitely still best to use 2 swords. Even if you have something like, if you're just starting off, using something like this completely fine, because it's going to benefit, it's going to give you 20% more strength from his trait 1, and also allows you to take advantage of twin wield boosts and the Sixth Heart skills as well. So I'm going to be using his paid sword plus Muramasa probably. If you don't have his paid, then you can go with Muramasa plus, I don't know, something like Sword of Lost Souls or something else. Up to you, really. But Muramasa is definitely going to be one that I would highly recommend for like everyone, for sure. I'm going to be going with these 2 weapons because these are probably the best, his best options, I think. This one's pretty good for more crit rate, so this one's not bad, and it can be free to play accessible as well. Yeah, Ascended Roland's animations were kind of slow. His skill 3 is pretty decent, and his skill 2 as well, but it's not that crazy. And compared to Joshua, which we'll showcase in a moment, his skills just seem incredibly fast, so I'm looking forward to that. Now, Joshua's accessories are quite easy, because we do have a lot of accessory options for this unit. In particular, because we have a lot of, you know, sword equip accessories and dark damage accessories as well. So you should have a good selection of accessories for this unit if you have been playing for at least a few weeks and have some of these options. So Mithril Relief, very good one, more movement speed and skill damage. Not the best because we do have some other options because he's a dark damage dealer, but it's still a very good one that pretty much everyone can use. Now World Break Globus is a very good one because dark attack damage, stun and silence resistance gives some strength. It's a pretty nice one. I would consider that. And then one of my favourite ones is Equilibrium Sphere because it gives some dark physical damage, good amount of strength, curse resistance, blind resistance, even more dark resistance and light resistance. So this one's a very good one, and it is free to play accessible once you get it from the story and you beat the story bosses to get this. Eventually you should be able to get this from the story free to play, so I'm definitely going to be using this one because that one just seems like one of the better options for accessories for this guy, so I'm going to be using that. And then let's have a look at and see if there's anything else here. I did get this one recently, so that's nice. This one's always going to be great on any unit that can take advantage of weakness and anti-type damage. That's nice. The Ultra Descent of Heroes banner did get released today, if that's the one you're talking about. It's not that amazing unless there's anything in there that you're specifically searching for, but I wouldn't really recommend pulling that one. You know what's really good? This accessory. When equipped with two weapons of the same type, increase skill damage and special damage and damage cap. This one could be pretty good, because it should be when you have two swords equipped, then you get skill damage, damage cap. So I would highly recommend this one if you have it. I don't remember where I got it from, but it is a pretty good one for sure. And this one's always going to be good because more strength. You stack on even more strength on this unit, it's going to be funny. And it also gives you more skill damage as well. More critical rate and damage cap against bosses is going to be nice, especially because he's a dual wield unit, so this one's pretty good as well. And this one as well is from the UR Ark from Balzar's banner. It's pretty good because more dark physical damage. It's not the best, but for this unit in particular, but it's still a pretty good option. So I think I'm probably going to be using this one if I were when I have him fully built. I would probably use this one for the critical rate and damage cap, and give him my Guardian. I'll probably do that. But because I'm just focusing on damage right now, I think I'm going to go for the Twin Blade Amulet because I think that's going to be pretty good. Yeah, many years ago, Kyle Pale Flame was a very strong unit when he released, and Shifter Dale was also a very strong unit when he released, but they always had very slow skills but could hit very hard that could be used against most content. So the Shifter Dale was better because Shifter Dale released afterwards, but their DPS was always on the lower end, and nowadays they are just not good enough. They can't compete against current DPS options. Like, yes, they can be used for clearing content easily, but they're not the best options anymore. Regaining MP for mage units, well, as long as you have a MP regen passive buff, which most mages should have, then increase your maximum MP, and that percentage MP recovery is going to be higher. So I would just recommend to increase your maximum MP pool, probably, because there aren't that many ways to regen MP really. Now for crests, I'm just going to have a quick look at if there's any good crests that I have for this unit, but just go for anything like sword boost. Something like this would be pretty nice, more dark damage. Actually, I do have a good one, and that one is that one's pretty good, but it's this one. Dark damage 20% and dark damage cap. This one's going to be pretty good for him as well. So I am starting to get a good selection of crests, if I'm honest. Especially one I got recently. One of my favourite ones is this one for mages. This one's amazing. But yeah, I'm starting to get a good selection of crests now, which is very nice. But for this guy, I'm going to be using this one, because more dark damage and damage caps can be great. So this is going to be my current build for PvE content, pretty much in most cases. But if I'm hitting damage cap, I would probably change Equilibrium Sphere for an accessory that increases damage cap, like this one down here, because it also gives crit rate, which is very good with Icy Guardian. So I would consider using this in a full build, but just for now, I'm gonna be using this build. Seems pretty good. A Roland is definitely still one of the better physical damage dealers in the game for sure, but there are more options. Unfortunately, most of the highest DPS units in the game are collab units. You've got Schultz here, you've got Callan, and then Joshua is a maybe. He only just came out today, but he's a maybe because he just came out and he needs testing, but it's a maybe. And then you've got Ascended Roland up there as well for sure. So I'm interested to see what his strength looks like right now. uh, 5,800 strength already. That's crazy. That's going to be so high once he's in battle, and he's got his extra strength buffs from his trait 2 and auto EX Brave. Also, I can awaken him as well for even more stats, so I'm going to be doing that for sure. And then we'll start showcasing him in the story stages and then the unit test play quest, because that'll be fun. $6,000 strength already. That's funny. We can get even higher than that as well. 6,200. Yeah, this is definitely feeling like a DR's situation where the strength stat's going to be insanely high. Especially in battle, it's going to be even higher. It's going to be nuts. Yeah, I definitely recommend to awaken this guy as much as you can, because every awakening is giving him a couple of hundred strength. So now he's got 7,100 strength already. He's just level 100 with base skills and this equipment. And I can awaken him even more if I wanted to anyways. I'm not going to do this yet. I'm going to keep him at Awaken 6, wait for his performance, and then I'll probably awaken him later on. But let's keep him like this for now. And I will start showcasing him after... Yeah, let's start showcasing him now. We'll go over to... Might as well go here. Put him on the team by himself with Lena. Now, some good arc options. I might as well have a quick look at some good options for this unit. This one does require an axe, I believe, but it does give you dark damage and damage cap, so that by itself, you could technically use it because it gives you dark damage and damage cap. I know he's not going to have an axe equipped, and he is a human type, so it's not the best, but it still gives dark damage and damage cap, I suppose. And I think, obviously, Soul Blade's going to be a good option always. Physical attacks, anti-divinity type effect. This one's going to be very good for PvE content because it gives you some physical damage and damage cap, and anti-divinity slayer is going to be very good because he has human slayer. So now he's going to have human slayer and divinity slayer if you have this equipped. So I think that one's going to be a solid option just for general content. And then I think this one could be pretty good in PvP because frontal physical damage and chance for critical damage, 35% and damage cap. So this one's always been a pretty good one for PvP. So maybe that one, considering that one too. And then Thrall of God, even this could be used because it gives you dark damage. It's not the best though. I'll just have a quick look at some other options. God of Ruin technically, but it's not the best. And obviously you've got one of the better options, for which I will recommend using it pretty much in all PvE content when you use this unit. Probably use Icy Guardian, because the criticals deal an extra ice attack. This one's going to be amazing for him for sure, so I will be using this when I have him fully built for PvE content, but for now I'm just going to be using any Ark for dark damage, so I'll just use this for the moment. And we'll go with this team. It's not really a team, it's just him by himself doing all the damage, and the only reason I'm putting Lena here is for Honey Elixir. That's the only reason. She doesn't provide any damage, she just provides SET, so let's try this out in the story stage. First of all, I'm going to do like 2 different stages in here. One's going to be against human type enemies, others going to be against god types, just to see what the damage is like, and then we'll go over to the unit test play quest and try them out in there, which will be a lot more interesting. Yeah, some people say that Callan is better than Shaltir. In some cases it is. Shaltir is just a lot more difficult to get to work because she requires her special, and she requires that buff. So let's try him out in this stage, and I'm quite interested to see what his strength stats look like, because they should be pretty high, and these are human type enemies, so this is his main advantage because he's going to have Slayer damage. And because of that, he should hit pretty hard in here. For sure, should definitely. So, already 15,000 strength. That's crazy. That's a lot of strength. He does have the Jet Black buff right now because he gets that at the start of the battle. That's why he has that much strength. So let's use his skills. These 2 are weak to dark, by the way. I just want to see what his damage is looking like against these weak enemies. Yeah, that isn't fair, because they're already dead. I'm gonna need to do a different stage because this one's too easy. Well, I should have expected that, which I kind of did. But if I go against god type enemies, he's not going to hit damage cap against god type enemies, right? He shouldn't. So these enemies have 40 dark resistance and they are a god type, so he should have trouble doing a good amount of damage here, but he does have some insta-kill effects, so some of these enemies might die. But if I target the boss... I mean, I'm scared. I'm scared. The reason why I'm saying that is because he can hit damage cap, and they're not even human types. I know they're weak, I get that, but usually when I do this showcase, most of the time when I do this showcase with new units, damage dealers, they don't hit damage cap in these stages. Usually they don't hit that hard in these stages. The fact is, he is already hitting his damage cap. I know I have very good equipment on right now, and a strong arc to boost damage, but he's already hitting damage cap against these enemies without Slayer, and they had Dark Resistance, and I don't even have any skills taught on him yet, which tells me something, that he's going to be pretty damn strong. I can already tell that he's going to be strong. Let me try him out in a couple more stages, and then we'll go to the unit test play quest to go in depth on his skills and animations and everything. So far, I'm just doing this to get an idea of what his damage looks like with base skills only. That's the reason why I'm doing this. I'll just go in here, because why not, and see what happens. Good. This is a human type enemy, but he's pretty tanky and has dark resistance. So here's the question: am I going to hit damage cap or not? In theory, it should not be possible to hit damage cap against this enemy, because I don't even have any skills taught on this unit. And if he hits damage cap with this one skill 3, I'll be impressed. Of course not, but that was not bad considering. You know, it's still pretty solid damage, I have to say. And you can see the fatal strike sometimes. You know, yeah. I'm still kind of impressed with his performance, considering he is just base SC and no skills taught so far. So I do think this, and this was a new record as well, I think if this doesn't tell you something, then I don't know what will, because he's already hitting pretty hard, and I don't even have any skills taught on him. So this is promising. I know he's got incredibly high stats, but this is promising already. Now let's go on to the main part of the showcase. Let's go over to the unit test play quest for Joshua and try him out in here. So his strength, incredibly high, 7,900 strength, of course. And obviously they got his paid with Phantom Dark Blade, obviously his paid again, and World Break Globus with just base skills. And obviously the limited arc as well, which is going to increase damage cap. So yeah, he's hitting hard on enemy that has dark resistance, and one thing you have to remember is they are kind of weak enemies that I was showing off, but whenever I showcase a new unit in those stages, usually they don't hit damage cap, so that definitely makes me think that this guy should hit pretty hard. It makes me scared that he's going to be pretty strong in PvP, but let's try him out in the unit test play quest, because I want to go more in depth with his skills and see what they're like, and his normal attacks and everything. So, first of all, 16,000 strength, base skills, amazing, love that. So normal attack, I mean, what to expect from this really? 3 hits, I mean, yeah, it's fine. And then skill 1, you do kind of have to be pretty close to use this. And now I want to spam this skill 1 just to see what it's like. Also, his buff would have gone away, so now he's got 12,000 instead of 16,000. Yeah, but in PvP there are ways around it, because if you've been in a high rank arena, you should have seen like some people using DRs and like very glass cannon type physical damage dealers can still work. Yeah, well, let's do this one at a time. Firstly, skill 1. There is a little bit of a delay, but you can see you can still spam it pretty fast, and it's not bad, but it's not going to be the best one, because it's lower hit counts, and you know, but it's still solid for a skill 1, I have to say that. It's not the best though, like we've seen better skill 1s than this, but it's not bad. And the enemy's already dead, great. And then the skill 2, we'll have to try that. His skill 3 is definitely going to be his main skill, that's the most interesting one to me. So, skill 2. Also, his skill stocks 4, 4, 2 are quite interesting. So his skill 2 and skill 1 have the same skill stocks, which is weird, but okay. So his skill 2, let's test the range on this one. Seems like it has a bit higher range. And the one thing I've noticed about this one is he goes behind the enemy. So what I am thinking is maybe his skill 2 can proc backstab / surprise attack, because when I do it from here, the enemy turns around, and I believe how backstab works is when you hit an enemy from behind, they turn around afterwards. So you're not infinitely doing backstab procs. So I'm pretty certain that his skill 2 can proc backstab, and that's going to be great because that's going to be even more damage for PvP. So that's nice, and it also, you know, puts you on the other side of the enemy. He's definitely going to be fun. Now, if I spam skill 2, it's not bad, but the same thing with the skill 1, it does have some delay. And you can use skill 2 into a skill 1, I suppose. It's not the best, but it can work. But yeah, you can see so far, the animations of his skill 1 and skill 2 look pretty fast, and I do like them, I'm a fan of them, because having fast skills is the most important thing for a physical damage dealer. So now we get on to his most important skill, which is his skill 3, the main skill. This one is going to be funny and quite crazy. So skill 3 is a close the gap skill, so you can use it anywhere, and also it has the extra chance it has a chance to do the fatal strike. So you may see the word fatal appear and purple numbers, that's a fatal strike. Yeah, that. Also, have you tried spamming this yet? Because if you haven't, you're about to see this. You see how fast that was? I'm going to do that again, but watch this. You see the delay of the first time I used the skill 3, and then the second time that I use the skill 3, it basically removes the delay, and it continues the skill 3. So, spamming his skill 3 is going to be super effective in PvE content. If you're using someone like Lina with Honey Elixir, then using him, spamming skill 3, is going to be nuts, because look at that, there's basically no delay on the second skill 3. The first skill 3 has a big delay, but the second one, it basically removes that delay, and that's what makes this so good, is the fact that you can just spam his skill 3 like this. It's gonna be nuts. But his best skill is definitely his skill 3, and if you have Honey Elixir and you've built Lina, which you should have, then this is going to be nuts. And it makes me think, is this going to be comparable to Callan? Because Callan is pretty similar, where she has a very fast skill 3. I don't know, but I'm hoping so, because there is a chance that Joshua could be a very high DPS unit because of this. So if you can keep spamming this non-stop infinitely, imagine that DPS potential. Like, you can imagine that. It's going to be nuts. Let's use a special just to see what this is like. It's not going to do too much, I think. Yeah. It is against all enemies too, so that's nice. I do want to do a bit more testing with the skills to see if there's any combos or something. Maybe you can combo... I'm wondering if you can use like a skill 1 or a skill 2 and then use a skill 3 to also remove the delay on the skill 3. I doubt it. I think it's probably only an interaction of when you're spamming skill 3 non-stop, but I'm still curious because I want to try it out. So obviously spamming his skill 3 infinitely is not always going to happen. It's not going to be not always going to be viable, but lag. I mean, it does kind of, like, when I use a skill 2 into a skill 3, the delay isn't as bad, I think. Fatal Strike. Another Fatal Strike. Yeah, this is going to be so good. I can already tell. And I've played this game since it's released many years. I've showcased, like, almost every unit. I can tell when I see a good unit. And this is a good damage dealer. I can tell. Based on this so far, this looks pretty crazy to me. I'm going to do this one more time, and then we'll leave it there for the showcase. But basically, if you have a Lena and Honey Elixir, and this unit, you're set. And you can just spam S3 non-stop and do insane DPS. And I think this is probably going to be some of the highest DPS in the game that you can have. See, 11 seconds and he's dead. Could be faster, but you get the idea, right? It's going to be pretty nuts. I can tell. I could already tell. So he doesn't just have PvP damage, he also has pretty fast, very fast skill 3 and very fast skills in general. And he does seem like he hits pretty hard in PvE as well. So I do consider this unit to be quite good, honestly. And if you don't have a top damage dealer like Sholtier or Callan, if you don't have either of those two units, then I feel like Joshua's going to be a very good pull for your account, because he's probably going to be the next best option for you for damage, for, you know, fast damage. I think he's going to be amazing for that. So, is he going to be faster than Ascended Roland? It looks like it. It definitely looks like it, because you saw that when I was spamming his skill 3. It looks incredibly fast. It looks faster than Ascended Roland. So I do think he's going to rate higher than Ascended Roland, at least for DPS so far. Like, I'm pretty impressed with this. And I wasn't expecting too much on his PvE side, because a lot of his kit is more aimed towards damage and like PvP damage, you know? So I was kind of expecting more of like high PvP damage and not that crazy PvE side, but it does seem like this is another very fast DPS unit, and if you don't already have one, then he's definitely going to be an amazing pickup for your account for sure, because having a very fast DPS is very important for Battlegraph Simulator. It's the most important for this content, and this is what can help progress your accounts, because it gives you crests. So having a fast damage dealer like Callan is basically necessary to be able to get to reach high difficulties on these Battlegraph Simulator bosses. So I feel like Joshua's definitely going to work, and you know what's great is Joshua can technically synergize with Arch being melee a little bit, and she is still used because of her stun. And the main reason why I say that is because of her anima, which reduces dark resistance by 20. So this will help reducing dark resistance. So you could have a team like this, but just replace Callan with Joshua, and it could be a pretty good team for crest bosses, I think. So, and he could also work in here, I suppose. It depends on the enemy's resistance, but probably not going to work against this boss. I mean, there's a chance. May actually, you might be able to make Joshua work in here because of Ascended Melee's Anima reduced by 20, plus Weakness as another 20, and then Holy Circle as another 20. So you've got minus 60 Dark Resistance right there. So that could be enough to make Joshua work against this boss, and I think it will be. And he also has that minus 50% resistance, so he's going to be treating it as like 10 Dark resistance. So I think he could work in most of these bosses, honestly. So I do think he's going to work in Battlegraph Simulator for sure. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to compete with Callan, because Callan, the main benefit of Callan, if you don't know, is she can use Trishula, and she has machine boosts, which helps for piercing, right? So that's, and she also has anti-boss slayer effect, and she won't flinch. So that's like her main value, and why a lot of people use her is because she's just like the all-around very strong boss killer unit that can use everywhere pretty much, because you can just give her Trishula and she has boss slayer, so she's very easy to use in that sense. Joshua's going to be a bit more difficult to use because he can't use Trishula, but I say that and I'm realizing he has his minus 50% dark resistance skill, so there is a chance that maybe he can still work against high dark resistance enemies. I'm going to have to try it out, but I can't say yet on exactly how good he's going to perform at endgame content, but I can see that he has some potential here for sure. So I'm looking forward to building him fully and trying him out in Battlegraph Simulator and Arena, because I feel like he's going to be quite strong in a lot of content, honestly. Now, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover today. I do obviously want to have a section talking about my conclusion and everything, which would be a bit longer, but I do think he's going to be quite useful, especially if you're just starting or if you don't have an existing top tier damage dealer like Callan or Shaltir. Then I think Joshua might be necessary, maybe. I can't say for certain because he needs to be tested in the end game content when he's fully built first, but based on my initial testing, he definitely seems like he's going to be quite good. So, and he was already hitting pretty hard, which sounds promising to me, definitely looks promising. So I think that's everything for today. Let me just quickly check this event one more time, because I know, yeah, this is at 64%, so get going, do this stage please, because I need, everyone wants it to be 100% so they can get a temple ticket. That's what we're waiting for. Everyone farm this stage, and once it's 100% you'll get a temple ticket. So that's everything for today, I believe. Quite an interesting unit, so I definitely want to talk about my conclusion, because I think that will be interesting as well. That's great. So my conclusion on this collab, I do think it's a pretty good collab, honestly. It's not as like top tier, it doesn't have as top tier meta stuff as the previous collab did. With the last rerun that we had with like Shifla Luch and the with Callan as well, those two top tier, incredibly top tier units are kind of hard to top that, isn't it? Yeah, so I don't think these units and arcs are going to be as, you know, necessary as the previous collab that we had, but I still think this collab is pretty good overall. If you just look at everything this collab is providing, if you manage to get anything from this collab, I still think it's going to benefit your account in some way, because I do feel like both of these units are going to be useful, and both the arcs are going to be useful as well. But if you just get the part 2 arc and nothing else, I feel like that's the worst outcome, really, because the part 2 arc is kind of the least useful thing out of this entire collab, in my opinion. But everything else is definitely very useful for sure. Part 1 banner, Estelle, I haven't heard too much testing on her so far, honestly, but that's probably because most people are not that excited about this unit, and I haven't seen anyone use her in Arena, or I haven't heard anyone use her in Crest Boss or anything yet, so I don't really have too much information in regards to this unit, but I can say that she is going to be useful long term. The main downside of this unit is her hit counts being kind of low, and her damage caps being kind of low as well for a single whip damage dealer. And that is why her performance as a damage dealer isn't that high compared to other units. But as a support, she's pretty good. Not as good as Shift Lelouch, but still pretty useful. And this arc is definitely the most useful arc in this collab because of this arc skill, this learnable skill right here for extra physical damage cap. This one's going to be amazing for basically any form of PvE content, because you can just put this on your support units, any support units, and that's technically going to turn that support unit into a buffer support unit because it's giving your high strength ally a physical damage cap buff. So I do consider this skill to be quite valuable and is definitely a very good arc for sure. So I think part 1 has the most value in this entire collab so far. Part 2 is also pretty good because the unit seems like it has some very good potential to be a very strong physical damage dealer, especially on the DPS department. It looks like his DPS potential is going to be pretty high, and his PvP potential as a damage dealer seems like that could be pretty high as well, but definitely more testing on that. There are 2 weeks left for both of these banners. Currently, if you don't have anything from either of these banners, I think part 1 is the better banner to pull on, because both the unit and the arc are useful and are quite valuable on this banner. And in part 2, I feel like the unit is a bit more useful than the arc currently, because the unit, at the time of release, he is going to be a very strong unit. Maybe in the future, he isn't going to be as useful. That's something to keep in mind. If you're looking for more long-term useful things on your account, then part 1 is going to be better. So overall, pretty nice collab, I'll be honest. Nothing super game-breaking really, but not everything has to be super overpowered, right? If it's strong and fun to use, that's kind of what matters, isn't it? And if it can work, if it's good, then I still consider it. And if they've done a good job with the animations and that kind of stuff, that's probably the most important thing. But yeah, I do like this collab, even though I don't know anything about it. These units' performance are pretty good, and the arcs are pretty useful too. So I do like this collab, even though there's only 2 banners. Some other collabs have had 3 banners instead of 2, like Sonic had 3 units, and I think 3 LR Arks as well, which was kind of crazy. But this having 2 is pretty normal. But yeah, if you're struggling, or if you want a suggestion of which banner you should be putting on right now, definitely focus on the collab banners, and part 1 is going to be your main focus. Once you get either the unit or the arc from part 1, then it's probably up to you with what you want to pull for next. I would probably recommend part 2 next, because a chance of getting Joshua could be pretty good, and even if you get the part 2 arc, it's still going to be useful, I think, to get another limited arc. So try to get at least one thing from each banner, but I do think part 1 is going to be a bit more valuable overall. And we also have this Descent of Heroes Ultra Festival banner for 2 weeks as well, so at the same time as the collab banners. And I just want to briefly have a look at this. We've got Leonardo, Moana, and Zekas. So I don't really recommend a pull on this. Leonardo's very strong. He's still a very good unit. Moana's kind of mid. She's just a waifu bait unit. You don't really need her at all for like any content really. But she still can be useful sometimes. But I don't recommend pulling for her at all. You don't need it. But if I were to pull on this banner, I would select Leonardo and probably the 4 Advocates of Lillaheart arc, because those are the 2 most useful things in here in my opinion. But you don't really need to worry about this banner too much, unless there's something you really want. That's up to you, but most players can just skip this banner because I don't think there's that much value in this one compared to what's currently available. And Leonardo is available in Descent of Heroes banners as an off-banner unit, I believe, so you could get him off-banner. So that's why I don't think it's worth really pulling on this one. And we still have this available for another week. I'm not doing that, and this Balezar's banner is available for another week as well, and the summer banners are available for another week as well. So yes, there's a lot of banners going on right now, but most of them you can ignore. If you're just starting off as a new player, focus on the collabs banners. They're the most important banners. And then if you've got everything from the collabs, or if you've got the most important things and you still have crystals left over, then the tutorial banner, or whatever you call it, the 72-hour banner that has Arks in, that I believe they should still be doing that. That is still one of the most useful banners to pull on for a new player that's just starting out, because you have a chance to get Arks in there, so I would still recommend to pull on that when you're re-rolling to try to get some of the more useful Arks. And if you have like literally everything that I've already mentioned, then the summer banner's not bad. That's probably your next option, and then maybe part 1 summer banners, but they're not as important as the current collab banner. So if you're just a new player, as long as you get any more recent unit, you should be fine, because all you really need is like a main damage dealer. You just need a basic enough team to push you through story first of all, and then you can start thinking about getting more units a bit later on. But if you're just starting off, then getting Joshua is going to be amazing for your account. Same thing with Estelle. Getting either one of these units are going to be a very good start to your account for sure, and they can work together as well. So if you get them both, then that's great. You could technically use them on the same team if you really want to. Just make sure you have a healer in your team, and I highly recommend that every single player in the game should be building this version of Lena, because she is the most free-to-play accessible healer in the game and is very useful. So I highly recommend to build this unit, because you don't even need Spirit Maiden Tharia anymore, because Lena can take Spirit Maiden Tharia's slots, because she's basically a better form of Spirit Maiden Tharia. So definitely recommend to build this unit as your support unit, and then any other units that you pull on more recent banners basically. But yeah, this collab definitely seems pretty good overall, and can't wait to see what's coming up next. Next banners are going to be in 2 weeks from now. I have no idea what's going to be in 2 weeks, gonna have to wait and see. But overall, I do think this collab was pretty nice. Joshua with Lilahar and I mean, Joshua is definitely going to be your main damage dealer, right? And then you probably want to try and buff him up and keep the team alive at the same time. So Goddess Lilahar helps with content that may have higher resistances, so, and also helps in content that may be immune to physical damage, so she can help against those specific stages. Or you can just use Joshua plus Balezar and Spirit Maiden Tharia if you really want to buff Joshua's damage even further. It's up to you, you can do that if you want. I mean, either team's going to work. If you're just doing it for story stages, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It just matters more when you're going into the more difficult stages and trying to build specific teams for specific bosses. So always change your team for whatever you're going into. PvP, you shouldn't really be focusing on that as a new player. That's something you should be worrying about later. When you're just starting, just focus on like a couple of the units, like 1 or 2 units, especially one main damage dealer. Build them as much as you can, and you can just use that unit in your arena team just temporarily until you get your account built up enough, and once you get enough resources, then you can start worrying about that a bit more. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I think for today. Definitely a nice collab, and I do like that there is collab music in this collab as well, because not every collab has music. Like, I believe the last rerun that we had didn't have any collab music, and it does make the collab feel a bit more immersive. And if you have played these games, then you know it feels a lot better when you've got collab music in there. One of my favorites is the Nier collab, because that music is amazing. I do like that game, so I'm hoping we get a couple more reruns in the near future. Yeah, so ju just to finish it off, Joshua is definitely a going to be a top tier damage dealer. He needs some more testing to see what his true potential is going to be like, but so far, based on my testing, his skill 3 looks insane, and if you can get him to keep spamming his skill 3 by having another SCT regen unit like Lena with Honey Elixir in your team, then I feel like he's going to be quite a strong unit, and he has incredibly high strength and a lot of damage modifiers in his kit, so I feel like he's going to be one of the easier to use damage dealers and strongest damage dealers to use for PvE content, just because of what his kit provides is already a lot. So I do feel like he's going to be a great unit. Now, I know I probably say that a lot, but I'm just giving my opinions on these units, and you can do what you want, but I can say for a fact that I think he's going to rate pretty highly, and if you do get him, he's going to be worth getting. Now, is he worth the 250 summons? It depends on your account, really. If you don't have a top damage dealer and you really need one, then it might be worth it, but I do recommend to wait a little bit first. Better than Sholtir, I can't say that for sure. I don't know. No idea. It's very difficult to beat Sholtir. Really is. But I do think Joshua's going to be quite amazing as a DPS. There is going to be more, testing and information on him in the upcoming weeks, but based on my showcase and testing in today's stream, I can say for a fact that he's going to be quite a strong unit. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Thanks everyone for coming. I'll be adding the timestamps in a moment. If you didn't realize, in the last stream, it took a bit longer for the timestamps to appear on the video, and also the resolution, it took a bit longer for that to update because it was still processing the video for a while when I was doing the part 1 stream. So that may happen sometimes, and if that's the case, then you just got to wait a little bit, a few hours or so after this has been uploaded, then it should be fine. So I will add the timestamps in a moment, and hopefully you get everything you want from this collab, because honestly it's a pretty good collab. Yeah, I know Sholtir has been the top for a long time, and if you remember, I said this before, that Sholtir is still going to remain the best, but we're going to start seeing a lot more units being comparable to Sholtir, and in some cases better, and we are seeing that. We're starting to see, and we have been seeing for a while, that Sholtir has been starting to get more competition, and there are a couple more damage dealers like Callan and now Joshua that can compete and do just as well, sometimes can do better in some cases. So I do think that's good, that we now have a bit more unit options. The one downside, the worst thing about this, is all of the top damage dealers are collab units, and if you end up starting or coming back when a collab is not on, it just kind of sucks, because then you don't have access to a top damage dealer, you can't get one, so that's the biggest downside, really, is Adis seems to make the best damage dealers collab units most of the time, but they are the most common. So if you still don't get this unit, if you miss out on this unit, don't worry too much, because there's definitely going to be a newer one in the future. It's guaranteed. It's always going to happen, because physical damage dealers always get power crept eventually. So, and you can also make do with Ascended Roland and other types of units in the meantime while you're waiting for another top tier damage dealer to release, but they are more common. It's not something that you must have, but it's nice to have. So I'll leave it there for today. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next units and the next banner. Yeah, also one more thing I want to mention is every single time that we've had a time trial in a collab, there has been 1 or 2 top tier damage dealers in that collab, so they force you to try to pull on that collab to compete in the time trials. That is a very common thing that has been happening, so it would not surprise me if this upcoming raid boss that's going to start today ends up being the perfect boss for Joshua. That might happen. That is likely. We'll have to see, but I'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. So, bye.